brothers. How are you today? How's life up in Bend, Oregon?
Good, thank you. It's actually quite beautiful. We have sun like about 300 days of the year, so who can beat that?
Who can beat that? I mean, seriously, 300 days a year, that's kind of like it is down here. I live down a little bit below Los Angeles, and we're getting ready to head to the beach after this interview. So I'm
Oh,
looking forward to that. I'm so happy to be talking to you today. My goodness, I was reading everything that I could get my hands on about you on the internet. How did you make it onto Goop? That was pretty cool.
so it was actually kind of interesting. I have a friend named Colleen McCann that was doing some work with Gwyneth Paltrow in terms of putting together like little bags of crystals and doing all sorts of things for some product line. And she actually started doing readings for her and a lot of things like that. And at one point, she's like, "Hey, do you want to make some smudging fans for Gwyneth Paltrow's exclusive smudging kit line?" And I was like, "Colleen, I don't know how to make smudging fans." And she's like, "Figure it out." So that's what I did is I'm really good with using power tools and stuff like that. So I actually went to a friend who makes these things professionally, and I said, "Dude, show me how to make these." And so he did, and there was a picture of me and the fans and Elise, who is Gwyneth Paltrow's like right hand gal.
Right. Uh-huh.
She does a lot of her traveling with her and type of stuff like that. She actually set up a session with me, and I didn't hear anything about it. I didn't know if it was good or bad or what have you. And about 6 months later, I got 8 phone calls in an hour, and these women were saying, "Hey, we saw you in Goop," and I was like, "What?"
Really? Oh my goodness.
So I had no idea. And so somebody actually sent me the link that showed that they had written something about the session that I had done for Elise, and that somebody had gone to my website and drawn a picture of an actual photo that used to be on the website.
Oh, I see that a hand-drawn thing right here. I think that's supposed to be you.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So it was just this thing where I wasn't expecting any of these things. A friend just sort of gave me a way in to showcase my work, and I did a reading for somebody, and I had no idea that it got out there. And this was like 4 years ago. And so I get calls from all over the world now because of that tiny little blurb.
That blurb started me down a road that led me to watching a few YouTube videos about you, and especially on one of them. Not that one, that one, that one really. That one's a hard video to watch. For those of you that don't know, Ashley has been studying and practicing shamanism, energy medicine, and mediumship for the past 16 years. You can go to bonesoftheearth.org and you're going to see a remarkable story of how everything works. And I would like to have a little conversation about that.
So actually, the term shamanism is culturally specific to Siberia and only Siberia. But Westerners tend to use it as a blanket term for individuals throughout the world who had the ability to access alternate states of consciousness for information, problem solving, power, protection, and healing. And they would often use plant medicines or sound, dance, those types of things to alter their brainwave frequencies to more of those theta delta waves that would allow them to be in that trance-like state. And that would allow them to go to, again, other realms, other dimensions, other states of consciousness to meet other beings, other aspects of their own consciousness, whether it be their higher self, a past or parallel life self, or just a different aspect of their consciousness that might have answers, including an inner child piece, a wounded self, what have you. So these individuals basically they are in every single culture across the globe, but they have different titles based on that culture. And some might be more geared towards specific plant medicines, and some might be more towards animals and what have you. But all of these individuals believe that there was a spirit or consciousness within everything in existence that you could connect and communicate with.
Do you have the power to heal people, or do you channel like a medium? I'm trying to figure out where you're coming from, as far as.
Everybody who does this work is different. Some people see things, some people hear things, some people sense things on their bodies. People who hear things are called clairaudient. People who see are clairvoyant. Those who sense things, feel them either on their body or just have a sense of knowing, that's clairsentience.
Mhm.
And so I have a mix of all of them. I see things, I hear things, I feel things. I just have that sense, that knowing. And so when I'm tapping into somebody, when I say tapping in, just connecting with their energy or their consciousness, I will often see things that could be very literal or in metaphor, meaning, what's the word I'm looking for? So sometimes the spirits will use things symbolically to give us information, and so they a picture says a thousand words. They might show you something in terms of symbolic. So, for instance, I was working on somebody's back once, and I saw a horse in a snow globe, and I asked her about it, and she said that she had hurt her back by falling off her horse in the middle of winter. I've seen things literally happen to somebody being assaulted or being in accidents, and it was quite literal. So sometimes it's a mix, and if I'm not sure, I have to ask.
Yeah. Uh, do you think everybody has the ability to learn it, or is it something you're just born with?
Both. I believe it was just our natural state to be able to connect and tap in, but we have been basically programmed not only by our environment, but by our institutions to stop listening to our intuition, to not believe in imagination, to
Yeah.
hear that which we cannot see or hear with the naked eyes or ears. If somebody else can't hear it or see it, they say you're crazy. So so when people start to sense things, they feel afraid of saying things out loud. They try to shut it off or shut it down or go, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we're being programmed that it's not okay to have these gifts or these senses.
I feel things, and I think we all do. But if you're going to go work with somebody, what goes on inside your head, or can you feel anything in your extremities, or how does that happen?
So when somebody comes to me, I basically ask them a couple questions like what's coming up for you mentally, emotionally, or physically, what areas of your life are not working, and what you want to manifest. I might ask some other questions, but those are the basics. Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to tap into any mental, emotional sensations that I might be able to interpret, any sensations in my body because I've been through so much physically and emotionally in my lifetime. I've been able to accurately practice what's called medical mediumship, where I can sense what's on in a person's body, unless it's something really rare, bizarre that I haven't come across, which can happen. But basically, I usually get a sense where it's going, where it's affecting the person, how, and in some cases what to do with about it, because I'll feel a burning, I'll feel a pinching, a tightness, or I'll get a gagging sensation, basically just a whole bunch of different symptoms that that person also might be experiencing as if I were them. And if
Right.
they're emotions, I'll be able to feel their emotions. I'll also in some cases hear thoughts that are running through their consciousness, and it could be what they're feeling in that live moment or what they felt in the past, because time really isn't linear, you know what I mean? That's our concept.
Right.
So tap into something that happened to them as a child, in some cases what's going to happen in the future. It just really depends on the person. And I always tell them, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you what you should or should
Right.
not do. I literally don't have that legal scope of practice to be able to do this, but this is the information that I'm picking up. And you can double check with your practitioner, what have you. In some cases, if it's within the consciousness, meaning a belief system or within their energy field, simply clearing the energy or restoring any power or consciousness they lost as a result of abuse, trauma, neglect, etc.,
Mhm.
can could create a spontaneous healing right there. Other people need to actually do things within ordinary reality, meaning this physical world, like change their diet, get out of that terrible relationship, or what have you, to actually make some lasting change.
Stuck, I don't know what you call it, stuck energy, whatever. A lot of times it seems that whenever you clear out something in your life, you do begin to feel better, even if you're not quote unquote sick, you know?
Things that happen in which the person cannot see, they're not even aware of what's happening. So like for instance, if they went through something traumatic, they may have wished their life away and suddenly had a physical decline that they did not even put two and two together. So it was became like a self curse that
Right.
put an imprint within their field that was much like a scratch on a CD, causing them to skip and repeat. Or somebody else programmed their consciousness to believe that they had no worth or value. So they started to program themselves to see, hear, feel, or experience that which that person seeded into their brain. And they started to make choices based on that program. And so sometimes, as the healer, it really is about tapping into that aspect of the consciousness and having a silent conversation with it and asking it what is required for it to change its life. In some cases, I hear things like it wants to get out of an abusive marriage, or it wants to be free of this feeling that it's not good enough. And I'll have to have that silent conversation with it to say, well, what will make you feel like you have worth and value? What needs to happen? What needs to occur for you to feel free? Or you have the right to be here, the right to be alive, or the right to be happy. And so if I'm talking to the person in real time, they might give me a million excuses of why it's not possible. But if I'm having that silent conversation with the soul that's bypassing the mind and all their reasons and excuses and what have you, sometimes I can get it to shift for that person and just have a massive somato emotional release that opens doors for them, opens doors in their mind, opens doors in their body, their soul, their energy field. I don't know if
Oh,
I'm making.
yeah, actually, that makes absolute sense. How long does healing happen? Is it instantaneously, or does it happen over a period of time, or is it just different for everybody?
It's literally different for everybody based on their belief systems. Also, just how long they've felt this way, how ready they really are to shift and change. Because I've had some people call me because they want an instant fix, and if there is no guarantee, they rather die. And so they're not willing to do certain things in ordinary reality to make the changes. They want somebody to either do it for them or take them out. So they're putting their power and their success and failure outside themselves. They're taking absolutely zero responsibility for changing their life. And so if I'm dealing with somebody that is so down in the dumps that they don't really want to be here, if the weight of the belief of wanting to die is way over the margin, then my ability to convince them to stay here is not very high
Right. Okay.
because they do have power. And so if they're saying, I really want a healing, and I ask them, are you done dying yet? And they hesitate, I'm up against a lot of resistance. So that person isn't actually here to heal, because healing means different things for different people. Some people think that healing means that they will never face any pain, struggle, obstacle, or adversity ever again in their life. And I don't know of a single person that comes across the with having absolutely no adversity. And so those people, they're so fed up with life and struggle that unless you can guarantee that there is no other adversity in life, then they often will give up and negate everything that you do. So I can't say it's going to be instantaneous for those folks.
Well,
But I do have some people that one session, that's all they need, and they go off and they just plow through life and they become instant successes. And then I have others, it takes a couple sessions, or longer. It really depends on each person. And one of the things I find is some people, they might feel a ton during the session itself and they're ready to go. Some might feel nothing depending on their sensitivity level in the moment. And then a couple months later, kapow, something changes or shifts for them. Or there's a little bit here, a little bit there. It just depends on the person.
You can think yourself sick. Can you think yourself well, in those instances?
So epigenetics talks about how your internal and external environment influences the expressions of your genes. That's why if you're thinking of negative things, what you're doing is you're pumping out stress hormones that turn on these negative expressions of your genes. Well, if you're thinking of um, fear, doubt, negativity, all that stuff, the Heart Map Institute actually showed that when you're in those lower vibrational emotions, your heart only generates a field of about 20 photons of light. But when you allow yourself to visualize yourself being ecstatically happy and really generate that emotion, you can generate up to 100,000 photons of light. So, right. And so positivity, a lot of times people, they poo poo positivity as the rose colored glasses, but if you're a negative person, guess what, the universe is going to present, no matter what you focus on, the universe is going to present that to you. So if you think that the world is cruddy, and that is what you're going to see, hear, feel, and experience. But if you believe that there are opportunities everywhere, guess what, you're going to find those too. So um so for me, like, I didn't focus on dying. I was a hair's breadth away from dying. I had lost 90% of the blood to my left arm and most of it to my legs by the time I had found the doctor. And because of my shamanic healing, I was focusing on these beings that were around me, one breathing oxygen into my chest. And my doctors were like, I don't even know how you're still alive. And I didn't say, it's because I had spirits. But it's like that. But they were the ones, these beings that in this other reality were the ones that told me not only how to turn off the terminal disease that I had and the seizures and strokes by eating an anti-inflammatory diet, which I'd never heard of. They literally had me going through the grocery store, pick out this, avoid that, take this, no, not that. Literally going through all these different things, and it shut it all off. It was supposed to be treated with chemotherapy until you die. And,
Right.
and so, and I didn't take any of that stuff. They also, when I had these miniature strokes, they also said, pack your left side in ice and eat these 3 chewable aspirin. And the doctor's like, wow, that's brilliant. Because you not only did you lower your blood pressure, you slowed down your heart rate and rhythm because of the ice, for one thing. Like
Yeah.
when you're about to do open heart surgery, depending on the type of surgery, they might put you on ice to slow
Right.
heart rate. So these beings were giving me this information about how to shift and change my life, and I had more of a connection to them than most people in this reality. They gave me hope. They gave me faith. And so I was focusing on what I would do when I was well rather than focusing on illness, because whenever I did that, I felt grief and anger and all these things that actually invoked more seizures and more strokes. So when I was able to keep myself calm and happy, suddenly all these different things started to shift, not only physically within my body, but in my external world.
Okay, these beings, are they all nice, or is there a different energy out there that you have to avoid whenever you're doing any type of work?
So in shamanism, there's well, three main worlds, and there's interworlds within those worlds. There's the upper world, middle world, and lower world. The upper and lower world are all about benevolent beings, meaning they have no harmful agendas. The middle world is a mixed bag, and that's the only world that has suffering. So the upper world, you may have like your gods and goddesses, your transcended masters, Jesus, Buddha, all those types of beings, angels, ancestors that have transcended their garbage, not the angry grandma that had issues with so and so. Um, the lower world is all about like plant and animal spirits, so nature, that type of thing.
Right.
But the middle world, you may have spirits that are what do you call it? That are antagonistic, those that are suffering beings, because this is the only reality that has suffering in it, the only world or level that has suffering in it. You're going to have a mixed bag, and some of them like to antagonize the living. Some of them are just lost and they don't even know they're dead, and they sort of glom onto you because you're this glowing light to them. You're a source of light, a source of food, a source of energy. And then you have those that they pick up on your fear and they feed off of it. So you have all these different energies in this reality. And through the training that I had, they teach you how to not only ask for, but tap into the benevolent ones that will help assist you without asking for a price in return. If something starts to wheel and deal to like, oh, I'll take some of your energy to do this, you're not dealing with something benevolent, because
Okay.
those benevolent beings, they don't need your energy. They don't need you to do anything for them. They just want you to do the right thing, basically. They won't allow you to use them to hurt somebody else.
Right.
I was just gonna say, so I do encounter people that have suffering of beings attached to them. Some of them do know that they've passed on, and they're just very much the parasitic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's very difficult to get them to leave. Others are they just want healing, and no matter what, no matter how they present themselves as being sad or angry or whatever, it's really important to remind them that they have light, because most of them have forgotten that they came from a better place. And
Okay.
even if it presents negatively, I rarely come across anything that we would label as quote unquote demonic, no matter how feisty it presents itself. I mean, I've had people hiss at me, snap their jaws at me, lunge at me, what have you.
Really? Oh, wow.
It gets exciting around here, or start screaming or what have you. And it really is about, again, taking charge or control of that situation, but bringing that being healing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't want to be here either. It just often doesn't know how to get where it needs to go. And part of the shamanic training is to help those beings go to other realities. Now, we can't necessarily force something to the light if it wants to go somewhere else, but we can say you don't belong attached to this person. They're a sovereign being. They have the right to say no to you.
if if you're doing a healing and you find some resistance, is it usually the person or the being that's offering that resistance to the healing,
Ah, that's a good question.
or is
Actually,
it kind of both? I like
it,
with your.
it can be both. When I lived in Sedona, which is where I was when that Goop article was written, I had one of the, when I first moved there, the first 5 people asked me if I was willing to take their soul out. And I said, I don't do that. I do soul retrieval. I bring essence back or consciousness back, power back. But if you don't want to be here, I don't take you out. And oftentimes they had suffering beings attached to them, and they said, just give them the body. I said, sorry, I do not do that.
Yeah.
And because they had, most of the times those individuals had been through something so traumatic that oftentimes it was like sexual abuse. And they believed that their body was this scary, gross, nasty place that they wanted nothing to do with, because they couldn't get past the trauma. And so they actually wanted to check out as often as possible. And so if something took over them, they really didn't mind, because that meant they didn't have to be present. So in cases like that where they wish their lives away and they don't want to be there, I'm dealing with the human that's having the problem. Um, Other times there is resistance from the suffering being attached to them.
Okay. I don't even know if this is disrespectful to say, but do you ever have anything funny, like something just hilarious happen whenever you're performing a healing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, so when we're dealing with the lower world and we're dealing with plant spirits, they're dimorphic. So they can present themselves in two forms, either as the actual plant like aloe vera or something that eats it. And so in my case, I was dealing with somebody who had come to me with Crohn's disease. And I asked, the spirit allies, can you give me a healing salve that I can, energetically, that I can infuse into this person to give them healing? And they showed me aloe vera when I was doing the pre-diagnostic journey type thing. So when the client actually showed up, I'm thinking aloe vera is going to present itself in my mind's eye, and I'm going to be able to infuse the consciousness of aloe vera into his intestines. What shows up were these little cartoon slugs with these tiny little gerbil voices like chipmunks that had aloe vera coming out of their rear ends. And now he doesn't see it. I see it in my mind's eye. And
Oh Lord.
I am trying so hard not to laugh. I am rattling. I'm looking everywhere that I can possibly look. I'm trying not to laugh, but it's like they're swirling around his abdomen. And all of a sudden he goes, oh, that's so nice. What is that? And he has no idea what's happening, but I beat red. I'm trying so hard not to laugh, snort, whatever. But I'm seeing and hearing this like cartoon show that I'm just like, oh my God. But he's feeling the benefit of it. So that was validation, but comedy at the same time.
You know, that would be hilarious. And okay, so it leads me to another question. I'm just jumping more and more down the rabbit hole as we go here because I'm thinking about a lot of the things you're saying. I can resonate with a lot of it in my own life. The other night, I was meditating, and whenever I meditate, I try to just push everything out, go blank, you know. But sometimes when I do this, I start to see these cartoonish type things. But in my own mind, I'm trying to just push them away because I'm thinking, well, I should get blank. I should, go into nowhere. Should I just roll with those images? They're not memories or anything that I'm thinking about during the day. They're just weird little psychedelic weird things that go on. Some of them are cartoons, some of them are just weird looking people. Do you have any idea what that may be in deep meditation?
Well, sometimes the brain interprets things again in metaphor. So you could be picking up stuff from all over the place, either empathically from other people, something in the collective conscious, something that you've been thinking about, or it's unresolved within you or somebody around you, and the field, your electromagnetic field, is interpreting that data. And so it could be coming through in metaphors, or it could just be like you're picking up random stations and this is what's showing up. Because literally everything has a frequency within existence. So you could be picking up some random station and you can go, okay, I'm going to change the channel because I don't understand this. It's sort of like listening to the Spanish station and you never learned Spanish. Is it useful?
Right.
No, if it's not useful to you and it's just randomness, then move on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Change the channel to something. And by doing that, what you do is to do that, you would set an intention of what you want to experience and try to dial into that frequency just by setting the attention itself. So again, to answer your question, it could be random things that you're picking up in the field or something that you're processing for somebody else that you met that day. It could be a million things.
I have a felt tip pen. This is no joke. I intended this very in a specific way. And at the same time, my wife was ordering it on Amazon, and she never orders me felt tip pens. It was weird. But I mean, when you meditate and you focus on what you want, man, I can't tell you how many times it's came true, and I just can't pinpoint where it comes from. But chakras. I
Okay.
know they're in the same places as your endocrine glands.
Okay.
Are your endocrine glands and your chakras kind of the same things, or how are they just? I don't even know if you can even measure them or anything. How do they work?
So it depends. Okay, so it really depends on the I want to say it's not a religion, but the philosophy that through which you're following. Because a lot of people they talk about the seven main chakras, root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. But others will talk about there's one beneath your feet, about a foot, beneath your feet, or there's four others above your head, five others above your head, whatever, up to 12. Then there are those that believe we have 108 or 400 or whatever, because some people will believe that every little point along the energy meridians is a form of chakra. So it really just depends on which philosophy that you're following. But if you're talking
Okay.
about the seven main ones, they are in the position of the main body organs, which happen to be linked into the endocrine glands. Now, the endocrine glands, they use hormones to communicate with your nervous system, the brain. Your nervous system is your electromagnetic field. So you do have these vortexes within those main areas, but you don't, I mean, you have multiple endocrine glands, and if you only have seven chakras, you're not having one per gland.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're just sort of
Right.
in that vicinity. And so what I've been finding though is that when I'm tapping into that person, I can often remove or restore energy to those particular glands through that particular chakra that it's associated with.
Okay.
So you have something the brain is going to be more of the crown chakra, your pineal gland, and certain things like that. Your eyes, ears might be more of your third eye chakra. Your heart, your lungs will be in the heart chakra. So basically, I don't know if I'm answering your question here.
You are, yes. I was just wanting to know a little bit more about chakras because it's really interesting to me.
They're
Uh,
like an energy vortex that spins
right.
clockwise or counterclockwise. And when a person has a blockage, they might be spinning in reverse or not spinning at all. And so you can use things like your hand, a pendulum, or something else to see the direction or the spin or the force coming out. Because if it's just a tiny little spin, then you're not really getting much energy out, and you might have blockages in that area.
So I could use my hand or something to find out if I've got a blockage in one of my chakras. Is that, did I hear that correctly or no?
Yeah, so if a person's having their it's almost like their shoulder is able to move. Your arm is fixed. Your wrist, your elbow's fixed, but your shoulder is basically allowed to move. You can basically use your hand like a pendulum. Now
Okay.
it's easier for a person who's sensitive to energy. If you feel nothing and you're just not sensitive to vibration, you'd be like, what the heck am I doing? But
Right.
somebody who's taught how to sense those energies might feel where there might be an excess of heat or coldness. They might feel like a swirling or a density or like a dip, a pocket, or
Hmm.
spinning. There's so many different ways. It's just a technique that you get trained how to do.
That's
And
cool.
yeah,
That's cool. What I'm doing, just to let you know, I'm writing an app. It's a prayer app. I don't care what quote unquote religion people are. If you're praying for one another or sending energy healing and things like that, that's what it's all about. I want to try to track these things, track healings, and so we can see graphs, see what's working and what's not working.
just out of curiosity, what is it that you are going through? that you, as you mentioned, I mean, I know you mentioned some stuff, but like, what is it that you're dealing with?
Okay, so I don't know. Here's the story. Um, about 6 years ago, we moved out here to California from Tennessee, and at the time, I was really, really angry, and I stayed angry for a long time. For 4 years, I stayed angry, and I'm not talking just angry. I'm talking laying in bed at night, just so mad you want to kill somebody, you know. And I just stayed in that constant state of anger for the longest time. Well, I got sick, and I got really sick to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. So I went to doctors. They sent me to specialists, and they ran all of these scans. I've had endoscopy, colonoscopy, the X-rays, and blood work, and stool samples, and the whole everything. They've never found anything wrong except for a couple of minor things. But they've never found anything. However, sometimes I can't get out of bed. If I have a flare up, um, then I'll be in bed, and I'm in constant pain. In my I have a constant pain right around here in my belly, and it's just and the doctors don't know what it is. So what they're looking for now, they're going to try to diagnose me, you know. And I pretty much told them, you can diagnose me all you want. I'm not going on your pills for the rest of my life. I'm just not going to do it. I would rather live a few years with a remotely okay life than to live for 40 years in misery. I'm not going to do it. The pills that they put me on made me sick. So that's what's going on. We don't know. Uh, and I've changed everything. I smoked for 30 years, which is probably part of my health problems. I quit about a year and a half ago. We went on a vegan diet, and I would call myself vegetarian now because I do eat some cheese products from time to time. Um, we changed everything, and so we're healthy. We eat healthy. Um, we no longer smoke. I don't drink, so I've got a healthy lifestyle, but the thing is just not going away. I've learned to manage it, and I can manage it, but that's not good enough for me. That's my story, pretty much in a nutshell.
So I don't know why, but it feels like you had an entity. That's oftentimes what people will experience is either grief out of nowhere or rage out of nowhere, intrusive thoughts, wanting to kill themselves, kill somebody else. I mean, just like full blown rage, that can be an entity or an intrusive energy of some kind on a spiritual level.
Hmm.
Um, it does feel like you have some autoimmune stuff physically, which may present as almost Lyme. And that is one of the hardest dang things to diagnose unless
Yeah,
you have
I heard
functional
about that.
unless you have a functional medicine person. But people often will have brain fog, they'll have pain, they'll have days where they're great and running and doing whatever, and then randomly they're exhausted. They have, it sounds like Lyme. And I work with functional medicine doctors and nurses right now to put together a program that is a blend of nutrition and neurofeedback to help people eradicate these types of things on, because one of the things you have to do is you have to use binders, specific binders that some will get out heavy metals and toxins, some will get out radiation or viruses and what have you. And the thing with Lyme disease is it has not only does it have its normal thing, but it has co-infections like Babesia and those types of things that will create a biofilm around the organism to protect it. And the medications they give do not break it down. The Western medicine meds. You need binders and things that will crack the shell around this crap and help get the stuff out.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, but it's a long process. It is different types of supplements to not only get out these different parasitic energies, but also bind the toxins they excrete. because they sort of do excrete these toxins that make us feel like crap. And full moon is the worst time. You're going to get more stuff around full moon times or stress, because those little critters get more active. And if you've been around mold too, that's another one that will just send people through the roof. And Western med has no idea how to deal with mold or Lyme. You're going to need a functional medicine person who probably does stuff with cell core products. You can't buy them yourself online. You're going to need a particular practitioner that can help you do that. I can even give you the name of somebody who can help you long distance, but it sounds like Lyme.
Really? Lyme, I associate Lyme disease with ticks. Is that correct? Or can it be other?
It can be, but you can also have it, even co-infections that are not Lyme but mimic Lyme, like the Babesia and stuff from other arachnids and things like that, spiders, whatever.
Could you
So
get it by drinking bad water? Like I had in my younger years, I would go to um, some countries and just eat anything off the street. Would that cause it,
you
or
could have,
have the potential?
what you could have is actually parasites.
See, I've been
That
tested for that though. It's crazy. They've the parasites that they did find, they say they killed. So
No, well, the problem is with parasites is that they can kill the big ones, but they have already left eggs. They could have just snuggled those little guys up into your organs, because they don't necessarily stay in the gut or what have
yeah,
you. They can go to other organs, spleen, liver, kidneys, and what have you. And they could have killed the big guys with the first round, but then of antibiotics or whatever. But then the other eggs hatch, and then what do you do?
yeah.
You know, I mean, so there are people that go through these parasite things and they go through it for a long period of time. The doctors give 1, 2, maybe 3 rounds of antibiotics, but it's a process.
On a spiritual level, um, you know, you can see my screen here. Have you ever heard of this guy right here, Dr. Joe Dispenza? Have you ever heard of him?
Oh, Dr. Joe. Yes, I
Okay. Okay. So here I will open up a little bit. I have all his stuff. The progressive, the intensive. I've went through it all. I do his meditations every night before I go to bed, and then I do a soma breath meditation every morning when I get up, because that is the only way that I can function. If I don't do my meditations, it gets bad. I mean, nasty bad. Where luckily I can work from home. I have a job where I can work from. This is my office in my bedroom. Because I don't even know if I could go out to. I mean, today's a good day. We're going to the beach, but it's weird because some days I'll know it when I wake up in the mornings. It's weird. When I wake up in the mornings, I know there's a period of time when I know. So on a spiritual level, I'm trying with the Joe Dispenza breath work, especially, I'm trying to reach that point to where I could just make my head pop and and have that experience, because I think that if I do, that's when it's all going to change.
So one of the things that comes up with situations like this is it not only do these things excrete toxins, they break down the mitochondria, the powerhouse in cells. So if you can visualize power in every one of your cells and that you're so filled with light that everything is bliss, what you're doing is you're programming your cells to a frequency that is the opposition of these things. So in some cases, you might feel a little squirrely at first, but in other cases, I think that you might really start to empower and put yourself at a frequency that these things cannot attach to, that they cannot exist within. I mean, when I was my sickest, I was my angriest. I was giving myself seizures and strokes so that's where I think what in some weird, bizarre way, whatever you went through is forcing you to raise your vibration. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to raise it a lot, but now I have the lingering effects because I can't think of anything other than that caused it, because it just came out of nowhere, out of nowhere. One day I had it. So
Well, that's what I'm saying. Somebody who came to live with you might have had an attachment, and because these things can tend to jump around. I've
yeah,
seen some major personality flips with people. I mean, one day they're fine, and the next day they have a sudden heroin addiction. And you're like, what the hell? And the person that died had the heroin addiction. That person gets that being off them. They go back to cold turkey like nothing ever happened. And you're like, what the heck?
yeah.
Um, I've seen people like come in just angry, frustrated. I pull something off of them. They might cry, they might scream, they might, I mean, I'm not doing like touching them at all. I'm just moving this thing and they're feeling it leaving them.
Mm.
And suddenly their life changes. And I don't, it's not necessarily to say that you still have it attached to you. It did its thing and probably left, but it was probably with you for a while. And some people, they have it with them for many, many years. And they just think it's an aspect of their own personality and they don't know why. I mean, like I've
How
worked
do you
on,
know if it's gone?
some people can, they say, I don't feel like myself. And then just something happens and they feel like themselves again, even if they have residual effects.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were not yourself?
Oh yeah, for the longest time. I mean, it was yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm myself, but and I feel like I'm progressively getting better. But man, it's just taken forever, you know. I've been feeling like I've been getting better for almost a year now. So, which we left that situation about a year and a half ago. So, you know, I don't know. I'm working
So
on it.
whatever that situation was when you left it, you probably left that thing behind. It was probably still somehow associated with those other people.
Yeah.
You We're talking entity wise. And so when you left that situation, it was no longer with you. But while you were in it, it left you open. It left you vulnerable to other things. And so I often find that people will get in car accidents, they'll get illnesses, they'll get all these different things while they have an attachment. And then the attachment leaves or the suffering being leaves and they're able to finally get better, but then they're having to deal with whatever they left them open to.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm going to give it all I've got and see if we can knock this thing out. And this is kind of like some of these interviews and the reason that I'm writing the app is kind of I'm not going to say selfish, but I derive a lot of information from these, because I'm on a mission to heal myself and learn how healing happens for everybody else because I think it can be learned. And if it can be learned and if we can track it, the world is just going to get better like, like clockwork. So that's
Well,
that's
that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza does. He does all those brain maps on people. He can tell within within an instant when the brain is going to change.
he could
And
tell before, like a few seconds before. Yeah.
yeah, and so what's happening with people is a lot of times, so his formula has to do with not only visualizing what you want, but feeling as if you already receive it. Most people, that's like one foot on the gas while the other foot is on the brake. They think about love, but then they feel grief because they don't have it. So what do you think that they just negated this whole dream?
Yep.
Because of low vibrational frequency, or they just created a neutral, thing, or the opposite. And so like I use Dr. Joe Dispenza's thing, meditation, not only with changing my relationship, but during COVID I had identity theft and I couldn't get unemployment. And so I at first I went the ordinary reality route and pushed redial 1,200 times a
Yeah.
day, got put on hold and then hung up on and got pissed and finally was like, okay, gonna do some Dr. Joe. I want, this is how much money I want, and I want to see these checks coming to me in the mail. So I visualize the checks coming. I'm like, woohoo, yeah, woo. And I got 2 checks in the mail within a week. One from somebody I gave money to 19 years ago,
Oh
and
goodness.
money to 12 years ago. And I didn't even tell them that I was struggling. So I was like, let me be more specific. I want my unemployment checks. So I visualized all these checks coming in the mail, and I got 32 checks in one day.
32 checks in one day.
That's how many weeks or months that I was waiting for all those checks.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad you got your unemployment.
Yeah.
That was a unique time. My good. What's your favorite Dr. Joe meditation? Which one do you like?
I like the morning and evening meditation because it really is not only about manifestation, but it also makes you check yourself of where you fell off.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know,
I listened to his what is it? How to break a habit. It's not breaking the habit of being yourself. It's a specific habit breaking meditation. I listened to it one time and I quit smoking after 30 years. That was a year and a half ago. It was crazy.
is that just underneath his meditation section in his website?
Changing beliefs and perceptions. I'm pretty sure.
Have you ever heard of Napoleon Hill?
Yep. Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, he talks about what the mind can conceive and believe it will achieve, and I think that is what has not only kept me alive through some of the worst stuff, but also that helped me achieve certain aspects in my life. And I think that a lot of times people don't believe that they can have or are worthy of what they want. And I think that's what lets the steam or the power out of their manifestation.
In every religion on earth, they teach you to visualize what you want. I grew up in a Christian church. That's kind of what I resonate most with. That's my deity of choice, I guess you could say. And Jesus says to believe in what you want. I mean, just specifically, he says it like 3 or 4 times in every religious text, and even in scientific circles now. There's a guy named William Bingston who has cured cancer in mice. And how did he do it? By thinking about what he wanted. It's called cycling. And I think it's a science. I don't think it's a religious mumbo jumbo at all, because we're starting to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah, we are, and you're changing the cell. You're changing the whole nature of your chemistry and your biology. And I think again, some people their power is so low because of stress or their mitochondria, or they can't focus or whatever. Um, I think that also too a person's will. When I say that, I mean like some people if you tell them they have to change their diet, you will become the antichrist. Don't take this is the only enjoyment I have in my life. And I'm like, well, then you're gonna stay sick, fat, and obese, or what, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that to be rude, but if a person is not willing to change the thing that's killing them because of some belief system about that it's the only enjoyment they have, then guess what? Then the association that they put on that, the value they put on it, certain foods to some people are like their treat. To me, they're poison because of what it does to my body. Now it's just a belief system, basically.
That's all it is. I love to eat. I used to be a big meat eater, and I could have swore I'll never give up hamburgers because it's my favorite food, in the whole wide world. Well, we went to the beach one day. We were going to go vegan because we watched the Netflix movies,
Yeah.
What the Health or Cowspiracy, one of them. So we went to the beach. We didn't know anything about nutrition. So my wife made rice and beans. That's vegan. And that was our first vegan meal. And our family's never been healthier, except for this thing that I've got. But I look at it differently.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm healthy. Always been healthy, never been sick, other than this one thing that I'm dealing with right now. And they can't even find anything at the doctor. So whatever, my family's healthy. But yeah, if you're doing something, whether it be eating too many candy bars or eating too many hamburgers like I used to do. Fix it. I agree with that. And that'll cure a whole lot of stuff. In fact, I used to have migraine headaches my entire life. When the day I stopped eating meat is the day they went away. I had them 3 or 4 times a week. So, you know, that's the reason that I won't eat meat. I don't care if you eat meat. I mean, I'm not like a big animal activist, which I think the way that they harvest the meat is cruel. And I don't
Yeah,
think you can be an animal lover and eat meat. But I mean, just to be truthful. But if it's hurting your body, why eat it? That's the way that I see it. Um, or it could be addiction can be anything, whether
yeah.
it's looking at pictures, food, drugs, and it could be a mental addiction of hating somebody too.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I mean, I think so sometimes it comes down to having to change a person's mindset or belief system before they can achieve that level of success with things like Dr. Joe.
yeah.
Because if a person thinks that seeing is believing, then they're just not going to get there. But if you put believing before seeing, then you will often get there. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Yeah. I've seen it happen time and time again in my life. You just can't pinpoint when it's going to happen. So,
Right. But I think part of it is really about changing vibration and also too, it's like sensing what does your body need? If it's in pain, does it need less of something or more of something? Because so if you're doing your meditations, it's like, well, tapping into that, go, do you need me to clear energy or restore energy? Because imbalances, inflammation and deregulation are the core of all disease, period, hands down.
100% correct.
And they're finding that the gut is responsible for most of it. Whatever's happening in the gut, either not enough of the good bacteria or what have you to produce the neurotransmitters required for mood, personality, fighting off disease, digestion, conversion of energy, all that stuff. Or there's an overgrowth of something that's creating these imbalances like inflammation, what have you. And so I think the same thing is with energy. If you have too much um, of a toxic type of energy or too little of your own power, you're going to have these things that will start to work their way down through the layers. Like everything starts off energetically and it will go through the layers. So if it's not cleared energetically, it will start to become denser and affect the symbolic dream level, which may impact your intuition, visions, dreams, that type of thing. And if not cleared there, like through meditation or something, then it will start to affect the mind, the emotions, the thoughts, your behavior. And if not cleared there, it becomes so dense, it's no longer wave, it becomes physical, it becomes matter. And so sometimes just clearing the energy will clear the whole pipe. But sometimes you have to do things at every level, like make sure your vibration's high, meditate on what you want, have positive thoughts and emotions, have a clean diet. you
Yeah.
know, so sometimes
Oh,
you have all the layers.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes when you're meditating, it's a whole lot easier to turn a wave into a particle, as in manifesting something, than it is to turn that particle back into a wave. At least it is for me, like in pain or something like that. But you sit down for an hour, and if you can get your body to be still for that hour and stop thinking about lunch and start putting your mind where it goes, it will actually take that pain away for a period of time. I mean, it's remarkable how it works, and I'm surprised. I'm mind blowing. They don't teach this in medical school, about meditation. So,
Well,
right,
they're finding that pain is linked with the nervous system. So if you can calm the nervous system, oftentimes you can deal with the pain.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just a pain receptor.
yeah,
Uh, but two, I don't know if you ever saw that video where they did this in real time. They had an ultrasound. I think it was an Asian woman, showing these tumors on one of her organs, and they had three people because they say if you have two or more people together, then you can create a field that's really powerful and strong. Not to say that we can't do it ourselves, but when we're receiving, sometimes it's nice to have more than one person, which is why prayer helps a lot. But they showed these people focusing on this tumor um, dissolving, and they watched in real time as this thing shrunk and went away. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, so I think too, when people are focusing on being sick, guess what they reinforce? I'm sick. So it's sometimes it's about changing the blueprint.
You know, if you tell yourself you're sick over and over and over, is this the video that you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, so if you tell yourself you're sick over and over and over, I think you can think yourself sick. When I was growing up, my mom would say, "Stop! You're going to worry yourself sick." You know, and I believe you can. I think you can make. I can. If but if you can think yourself sick, then logically you can think yourself well. That's what I think.
Yeah, so that's the placebo effect. Your body can literally produce any chemical that exists. Just like the nocebo effect, I guess is what Dr. Joe calls it, is you can make yourself sick. So you can make yourself well or you can make yourself sick. So placebo, you can produce anything to make yourself well, happy, healthy, what have you. And then again, nocebo. I don't know if he just came up with that
I
term or
don't know. I don't
what.
know.
But that's what he talks about. But yeah, no, I've known people that when I tap into them, I ask them like, "Did you wish your life away?" Because that's what it feels like, and that's actually what happened to me. Is I did wish my life away, and I ended up creating this arc towards this death path for myself. And when I remembered what I said to myself at 17, I was like, "Oh crap, I broke my life."
Eh,
And I was like, now what do I do about this? And I'm like, am I done dying? I'm like, yeah, I think I am. Am I willing to have love in my life now? Yes, I am. And all of a sudden things started to change. But a lot of these people, when I ask them, are you done dying? They go, can you guarantee?
oh Lord.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, you can't guarantee. I mean, come on.
Right.
But some people, and I can tell you this by experience, some people, they don't want to get better because it may sound ridiculous, but when you're that sick, sometimes all you want is to be comforted. And when you are sick and your wife comes in there and she comforts you, oh, you know, rubs your head or whatever, that's very comforting. And a lot of people in that moment, they don't want to get better because they're being comforted, you
There's a
know.
collateral benefit to being ill. For some people, it's money. It could be on disability, welfare, what have you. They are so afraid of what is required of them to have a different life that they would rather be sick and stay at a minimal level than go past what they know, what's familiar. And that's what Dr. Joe is talking about. People are addicted to the familiar, even if they hate it.
People that come to you, let's say I was a spiritual person, but I may not believe that entities were all around me, like angels or whatever. Let's just say that I just didn't believe that. But you do believe that healing is possible.
Yeah, in fact, some of my clients are atheists, and I said, do you believe that the universe has an intelligence that makes things grow, that knows how to make an animal that eats grass convert it into a milk or a baby cow? Do you believe that there is something smart enough within ourselves that if we cut ourselves, it heals it without our mental participation? I'm talking to atheists here. And I said, yes. So you believe that there's something that we can't see that is making things happen? Yes. Do you believe it's God? Oh, hell no, blah.
Yeah.
But you believe there's an intelligence? Yes. I said, well, guess what? Every one of your cells has an intelligence, and I'm working on them. I'm working on the intelligence that exists within you and trying to see if it's willing to shift. They can get behind that because they believe in quantum physics. And they believe that what you've put your attention on is what becomes reality. So if I'm putting my attention on them and shifting something for them within their field, they can get behind that. I just use different terms. I start talking to them in electromagnetic terms, start talking about chemistry, biology,
Right.
uh, physics. I usually use quantum physics terminology to talk to my atheists, and I'll use things more in depending on their religion or their background, I'll use it in those terms for those folks. But it still comes from an intelligence. I don't care what you call it.
I don't care what you call it. I think it's a loving intelligence, and I have no clue why that we are here or anything. I don't really care. I'm just trying to go with it, but there's something out there, or someone, or some intelligence. I mean, I don't know what you call it, you know. So, but I do know that when we're looking at a wave and we want to find out where the electron is, all we have to do is look, because it'll be there, and that's weird. And so, you know.
Well, that's the thing about like whatever you focus your attention on, you're going to find. So I always tell people, stop being freaking negative, because you're going to find it.
Yeah.
You think that's evidence or proof, but I guess you talk to that person with the rose-colored glasses, they're going to find evidence or proof of what they're looking at too.
Oh,
Yeah. So I asked them, so would you rather be miserable or happy? And they're like, eh. I was like, then focus on what's going to make you happy. Change the channel.
that's all it is. Just antennas coming out of your head. I don't think that we get very much from our brains. I think we pull a lot of the information in, you know. So to each their own. We don't know it all, but we can try, and we can. My whole idea is I want to show the world intellectually and scientifically that healing is not just pie in the sky, you know, praying to Lord Jesus. There's a scientific thing behind it, you know, and I mean, we're proving it every day. So I'll get on this and I will send it to you, and give you all the information about it. And again, we're going to launch here in February. So uh, I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you so much for being here.
Congratulations. Yeah. And just think yourself well. Feel yourself well, because part of it's feeling.
Oh yeah. Just got to try to feel it.